Right. Well, welcome to KelownaNow and our new live streaming show on Twitter. You're going to see a little bit more live streaming and video content from KelownaNow in the coming days, weeks, and months. My name is Jason Mann, and with me is Jim Check. We're longtime Kelowna residents, longtime involved with KelownaNow, and as things evolve in the media space and as new opportunities present, particularly around video, we're jumping in with both feet. Now, that said, admittedly, we don't have a name for the show and we don't even have really a firm direction at this point, but we wanted to connect with you and share a little bit more about what our plans are.
Yeah, and we want you to kind of tell us what it is that you'd like to see. This show may not always be Jason and Jim. I'm Jim Check, and the JJ show, the J&J show, but it could be different people in here. So we do want to hear from you who you'd like us to talk to, whether that's local politicians, people making news in the community, or if you just want to rant. I think one of the cool ideas would be just have people on for like 30 seconds to have their rant where they can just call in and do a rant. I don't know if that's good or bad. We have to figure out a way to filter it, but Twitter Live and YouTube Live will allow us to do some pretty cool things.
Local art and culture, it can expand the gamut of the city, really, right?
Yeah, I've done quite a few podcasts. We've done with, I think I did a podcast, Road to Now, with some of the people that have accomplished some things in town. Also done lots of stuff on mental health with different people. So there's a whole gamut of things we could talk about. I talked about Bitcoin on here too. Not a big believer, by the way, but hey, there are people out there that do believe in that stuff. So.
And we might have a few hard conversations, aka the rail trail and those types of issues that the city faces and we all face as people who live here. Some of those harder conversations might be part of the mix as well.
Yeah, there's two things that are really changing what's going on in the world, and those two things are like electrification of the world and also AI. So those are the couple of things that we'll talk about a little bit more. Some people are hesitant on both those fronts and some people are all gung-ho on those fronts. So we do want to open that conversation up onto EV and AI for sure.
And speaking of which, you were at the Fully Charged event in Vancouver just last weekend, and it's a trade show all focused on electrification. Now, is it just electrical vehicles or was it home as
It was home and EVs. That was the thing. It was about home. It was billed as the largest electrification show in the world, and there was a lot of EV makers there and a lot of home stuff, home charging, solar panels, that kind of stuff. The one weird thing that I thought was kind of weird there was Tesla was not there representing itself. There were Teslas there, but Tesla itself was not there. Although there was a lot of other makers there. There was BMW, Polestar, Rivian was there.
Which ones would you say
Volkswagen
caught your eye the most, or that you were most surprised to see?
I think Polestar wanted to be the star of the show for sure because they had their cars parked out front, and then Polestar had the biggest presence inside. And I did spend probably, a good 45 minutes talking to the Polestar rep about their lineup of cars. I mean, the Polestar's, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's Volvo is the parent company that kind of works with that, right? So, I mean, I think they're trying to make some headway. Rivian is obviously one of the few that is making pickups, along with the Ford F-150 Lightning was there as well.
I've seen a Rivian in Kelowna.
Yeah, there's more and more Rivians out there now for sure.
Yeah, it's a neat brand. Keep an eye on.
Their biggest thing is that you can use them at home to, like, if you lose power, you can connect your home to what's left in the battery of the truck.
And what would you say the Tesla? I mean, Tesla has a lot of benefits, but do they have a one thing?
Yeah, so I mean, just full disclosure, I drive a Tesla, and Jason happens to drive an EV as well. He drives a Hyundai. Is it a Kona?
It's a Kona, yeah.
Kona. So we both drive EVs. I think Tesla is your benchmark. Like if you're considering an EV, you should at least drive a Tesla. You should, so that you have that as your comparison, because they've been doing EVs longer than anybody else, and that's all they do is EVs. So I think, and the Model 3s, there's some misconceptions out there for sure. Like the Model 3s start at $54,950. I mean, that's basically what the car is unless you change the color. And there's a $5,000 grant from the federal government that comes right off at the dealership. And in British Columbia, there's an additional $4,000 if you qualify. I think it's if your income's under $88,000. I think you have to check that though, like double check that. So you can get a Tesla in the $45,000 range, the Model 3 rear-wheel drive. So there's quite a few of them that qualify now. I think the Tesla long range qualifies, the Model Y, which is the most popular vehicle in the world now, not the most popular EV, but the most popular car in the world that took over from the Toyota Camry this year. So the Model Y now, the most popular car in the world.
Going back to the show, what was your overall impression of the event itself? What would be your takeaways?
I think they billed it as the largest, like electrification show in the world. I think it was a great first year event. I think it definitely, like they got some first year bugs to work out for sure. I think no. I mean, I did ask like why Tesla wasn't there. Were they snubbed or Tesla snubbed them? Because it makes sense for Tesla to be in an event. That's it made me curious as to why they wouldn't be there. And then I think like some of the booths were kind of like it was kind of like I don't want to say this like poorly like it was kind of almost like a local trade show when it was billed as the world's largest. It was kind of run more like it was maybe a smaller market trade show as opposed to something that's supposed to be the biggest in the world. Like I've been to some really big shows. Like if you go CES down in Las Vegas, I mean, that's pretty magnificent, right? Like this had a big banner up, but I don't know if it delivered. One of the cool things there, and Nick, who's sitting back there producing back there for us, Chase was there from Merritt with his hybrid diesel truck.
Oh yeah.
So he's got that diesel hybrid truck. So he was right out front there with the logging truck that he's doing. And if you go on KelownaNow, you can see a bunch of videos that we've done with Chase.
Yeah.
Because what's his name of his company? Edison Motors,
yeah.
stealing Tesla's ideas or something like that. Or I don't know, I forget how he words his thing. But you could definitely tell Chase's crowd was all gathered around his logging truck because they were all wearing their high-vis vests and stuff. They all had beers and hats and stuff. I mean, wearing a hat. But definitely was, a different crowd that you wouldn't expect at the EV show. One of the cool things they did do at the show for sure, they had probably 40 electric vehicles from different manufacturers that you could test drive. So instead of just walking around and seeing cars and sitting in the cars, you could actually drive the cars. So they had lineups for people to actually, then people could test drive a variety of the cars and take them out for 15 minutes with, a rep that explained the cars.
And you had mentioned they were actually able to drive them right into the venue as well.
You couldn't drive a gas car in, obviously, because of the fumes and that, but an EV, you can drive in because there's no fumes that come off the car, right? So they were driving right into the convention, the bottom of the convention
on
area.
A track, basically? Like, was it just a controlled kind of like a constant
Well, they
parade?
kind of made like a cone thing, right? So
Yeah.
they just kind of made a cone thing and that people can drive in. They even had a charging station set up for some of the EVs. I think, back to the Tesla thing, I think the big advantage that Tesla has right now is the largest gas station network in the world happens to be Tesla. It's not gas station. The largest vehicle fill-up station is the Tesla supercharger network. That gives them a significant advantage. Then you'll know that, right, from charging your Hyundai, right? So
it's a little, I understand the concerns about range anxiety with people when they're considering an EV. Having just traveled to Salmon Arm for the day for a meeting, and getting there and then not finding easily a place to charge. If I was driving a Tesla or if I had a Tesla adapter, it'd be a little easier. And as Tesla maybe hopefully opens up their Tesla charging station specifically, then it'll be even easier. But that said, with a little planning, you can get to where you need to go.
I mean, the good news is Ford, GM, I might get some of these names on, but a lot of the manufacturers are now adopting the Tesla charging system, so they'll be able to access the supercharger network. So, which is great. It allows more people to use those chargers, and I've used them a lot, and they're great and they're fast. And they tend to work all the time, whereas there's a lot of complaints about the other systems. So
it's interesting. Like there's ubiquity within the petrol solution. Everybody can go to a gas pump and pump. Yeah. And this electrification route looks to be following the path of the brands, the computer makers, where they have all different connectioners and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out in the end, because I don't know if that's consumer friendly.
I think the Tesla supercharger thing, by the looks of it, it will dominate, and then that will be the solution going forward, which is great. Just allows people more access to the chargers, because there's a lot of people that really like the Ford F-150 Lightning and the Mach-E. There is inventory now too. There's no waiting list for either one of those. I think Ford has quite a few of them sitting on their lots now, right? So I think from what I hear, that the early adopters have bought the the EVs, and now it's like, how are we going to get the mass market? Canada's is low on the poll. Like I think I posted something on my LinkedIn. I think Canada's maybe like in the 30th country in the world as far as adoption rate goes. I think we're at a 7% penetration rate, whereas like China is like at like 25 or 30, right? So China's vehicles are also coming to Europe, and they're probably going to be coming here as well. And they're the biggest legitimate contender for Tesla with BYD.
Now you have gone full electrification almost in a way in your personal life, not only with vehicles but also with your home now recently.
Yeah, so there's a great opportunity in solar as well. So, and the federal government has a pretty good incentive in place for solar panels. So if you put solar on your roof, there's a $5,600 grant that's available for the solar panels on your roof, and then plus a 10-year zero interest loan up to $40,000. The system I put on my roof um, was a $26,000 system that will generate about 90% of my electrical needs. And the cool thing about British Columbia is that it has to, Fortis has to buy back, or any of the other power companies in BC have to buy back your energy. So in the summer, you're going to generate more energy than you need, and then you're going to generate some credits that you'll offset it with in the winter months. So basically, you're trading your power bill for a solar bill for the next 10 years, and then you'll have that. So the gas station, you could say, is literally on my roof.
Yeah,
So,
right. I understand that those credits are 65% subscribed. They're a little bit ahead of schedule, and so people that are thinking about solar, the program that is currently out and available, anyways, seems to be being adopted quite rapidly.
yeah, I think like especially when like it's the cool thing in our neighborhood, I put it on my roof, and then the neighbors come over like, "What are you doing?" And then like two of my neighbors like right next to me have it, and then one neighbor across from me has it now. So as you put it on, people get curious, right, and just ask questions, and that's how they're just like, "Hey, that actually makes sense," right? So. And then while you're doing it too, like I put a Tesla charger in at home as well. So while I was doing my solar, so that made a lot of sense. So I'm not going to superchargers anymore. I'm just charging at home.
Mhm. So these are the types of conversations we want to have. Talk a little bit more about our experiences. Talk about things that are changing the fabric of our community and society. And electrification is certainly on the top of that list. There's definitely a lot of incentive and a lot of leadership at all levels of government driving this adoption. So, and I think there's people that need to learn more about it, and we need to stay on top of the change as well, what's happening. So, thanks for sharing your knowledge and insights.
I do have some pictures and some small videos from the event, and I'll post some of those in the comments there too. And it was great to go down to that show too and see it. And it's a great start. And we talked about as Kelowna that we maybe want to bring that show here to Kelowna, right? Because I think it at least gives people the opportunity to kind of see and ask questions, right? Because I was, not to drag this out, but I was sitting at a table after golf at one of the golf courses. I won't name it, but and there was a couple of older couples, and they started on ranting about EVs. I didn't say I drove one at that point, and they were just saying, "Oh, nobody wants to buy an EV. I'm an oil and gas guy. Like these EVs can't go past the city. Like I need a car that can go, drive somewhere else." And I listened to it for a while, and I said, "Well, actually, they can. Like I drive to Calgary and Vancouver all the time, and I have no issues at all." And then, the next thing they said, well, they light on fire all the time. And I said, well, actually, gas cars light on fire way more than EVs light on fire. And, they had a few of the other ones too. They're so expensive. And I said, well, actually, they're lower than the average cost of a vehicle now too, right? So the Tesla fully loaded Model 3 is less than the average cost of, some of the entry level cars, right? Um, so there's a lot of misinformation out there for sure.
And new information. Just this week, we've heard that there was a huge lithium deposit found in Nevada.
Yeah, in the States there, yeah.
So that's a game changer in terms of their economy and sustainability and viability of, because there's been a lot of people saying that maybe we can't get to full electrification.
And you don't have to hate oil and gas, or you know what I mean, like to drive an EV. I mean, I fully support our oil and gas industry because I believe we need, because Canada's the largest country, second largest country in the world landmass, and to move stuff across this country, we need diesel. We need diesel in semi trucks, right? Like trains use diesel and trucks use diesel, and there's no solution really for that right now. So we need that oil and gas for those guys to move, like the super tankers that are come across the ocean. Wow, I got lost there. Diesel, right? So
Yeah, and I think, there's obviously a lot of other practical reasons to transition at a pace that's,
and home
beneficial
heating.
to humans.
Home and heating, right? Like natural gas is still one of the most efficient
Yeah.
ways to heat your home, right? We did electricity for a minute. Anybody that has electricity as your primary source of heat at home, you're going to know what your bills look like.
I was going to say it seems almost
right?
it's impractical that everybody could go at the same time
So,
here either, right?
So the EV thing, I think, is more about like it's about common sense, like sense actually, because it's going to save you money at this point, like the maintenance issues and the cost of the vehicle and all kinds of stuff. Because most of the maintenance on a EV is tires. It's tires, right? Because it's usually one pedal driving, not even brakes, right? Some people have driven a Tesla a million miles and they haven't changed the brakes.
Well, you're certainly seeing a lot more of them on the road here in Kelowna. Every fifth car driving through the Mission during rush hour seems to be an EV nowadays. So.
When you go to Vancouver, every fifth car is a white Tesla. But you are seeing a lot more of the other ones. I see a lot of the Iconics and a lot of
the Ford Mustang, which
Mach-E's,
could have called something other than Mustang, I think. But
I guess they're trying to live off that. The one that I can't figure out, and this is my little bit of a rant, is like GM, like you made the Bolt, which you're discontinuing, Volt or whatever, you're discontinuing it, and the Hummer. Like what?
There is a Hummer in town, electric. We've seen it.
Just like what? You've made this massive vehicle as your primary thing for electric. Who made that decision? Maybe it's a great decision. I don't know, but to me it seems odd.
Well, there you go. So I think that brings us to a wrap today on our first ever live streaming broadcast. We're going to come up with a name for our show. We're going to come up with some better topics and guests. Not better, but
yes,
more.
Like we need to get Elon on the show because since we're pumping Tesla,
right.
And even Mary Barra from GM, we'd love to ask her the question, why the Hummer, right?
So, and we look forward to talking with you and hearing your responses as well. You can place comments, feedback in our comments section here, and or send emails if you have any ideas for future shows. We'd love to hear from you. So until then, I guess we'll call it a scene.
Live long and prosper.
There you go.